Something big is quietly happening inside Apple's next iPhone chips, and most people are not talking about it yet. The upcoming Apple A20 Pro chip, the processor expected to power the iPhone 18 Pro, iPhone 18 Pro Max, and Apple's first foldable phone, the iPhone Fold, might bring two huge changes that could seriously boost performance and battery efficiency. And these changes are not just small upgrades. They could completely change how iPhone chips are built. Let's break it down in a very simple way. First, this information comes from well-known Apple analyst Jeff Pu. According to him, Apple is planning some major internal upgrades for the A20 Pro chip. But before we get into the crazy tech stuff, here's something interesting. He also predicts that Apple could ship around 250 million iPhones in 2026. That's actually a 2% growth compared to the previous year. Now, that might sound small, but in the smartphone industry right now, where sales are slowing down, even a small growth like that is a big deal. All right, now let's talk about the first major change in the A20 Pro. This new chip is expected to use TSMC's 2nm process from TSMC. Now, if you're wondering what that means, here's the simple explanation. Smaller nanometers usually mean faster chips, better battery life, and less heat. So going to 2nm could make the iPhone much more powerful while still saving battery. But that's not even the most interesting part. The real upgrade is something called WLCM packaging. Right now, Apple uses a technology called info packaging for its chips, but with the A20 Pro, Apple may switch to WLCM. So what does that actually mean? Think of it like building a house. Instead of putting every room far apart, you place everything together in one smart layout. WLCM allows Apple to combine multiple chip parts into one single package. That means the CPU, GPU, and neural engine could all sit closer together inside the chip. And when parts are closer together, a few good things happen. First, communication becomes faster. The chip can move data between components much quicker. Second, it becomes more power efficient. Less energy gets wasted moving data around. Third, it saves space inside the phone. And this is very interesting because saving space inside the phone could allow Apple to do things like add a bigger battery, improve cooling, or add new hardware features. Another cool thing about WLCM is that it removes the need for something called an interposer or extra chip layers. Apple can also use something called molding underfill, which helps reduce materials and manufacturing steps. In simple words, the chip becomes smaller, cleaner, and more efficient. But that's only the first upgrade. The second change is something even more technical but also very important. The A20 Pro will reportedly use new SHPMIM capacitors. Yes, that name sounds very complicated, but don't worry, the idea is simple. Capacitors are tiny parts that help deliver stable power to the chip. Think of them like small energy storage units inside the processor. When the CPU suddenly needs power, like when you start a heavy game or record 4K video, these capacitors help deliver that power quickly and smoothly. And Apple's new super high-performance metal-insulator-metal capacitors are expected to be much better. According to the report, they could offer more than double the capacitance density compared to the previous generation, and they also reduce electrical resistance by about 50%. So what does that mean for users? Three main benefits. First, better stability. The chip gets smoother power delivery, which means fewer performance drops. Second, better efficiency. Less energy gets wasted as heat. And third, higher performance potential. Because when power delivery improves, the processor can safely run faster. Now let's talk about the actual phones that will use this chip. Starting with the iPhone 18 Pro. This phone is expected to feature a 6.3-inch display. Then the iPhone 18 Pro Max could have a 6.9-inch display, continuing Apple's trend of large screens for the Pro Max models. But the most exciting device here is clearly the iPhone Fold. This will be Apple's first foldable phone. According to the leak, it may have a 5.3-inch outer display and a 7.8-inch internal display when unfolded. So when the phone is closed, it looks like a normal phone, but when you open it, it becomes almost like a small tablet. And interestingly, Apple might use a passport-style fold design, meaning it opens like a book instead of flipping vertically. Now let's move to the cameras. For the iPhone 18 Pro and iPhone 18 Pro Max, the camera setup could look like this. On the front, an 18-megapixel front camera with a 6-element lens. On the back, a 48-megapixel main camera with 7 lens elements and a variable aperture. That variable aperture is very interesting because it allows the camera to adjust how much light enters the lens, similar to professional cameras. Then there will also be a 48-megapixel periscope telephoto camera for better zoom, and a 48-megapixel ultra-wide camera. So basically, Apple may go all 48-megapixel sensors across the entire rear camera system. Now for the iPhone Fold, the camera setup will be slightly different. It will reportedly have an 18-megapixel front camera on the outer screen and another 18-megapixel front camera on the inner screen. So you'll have a selfie camera no matter which display you're using. On the back, it could feature a 48-megapixel main camera and another 48-megapixel secondary camera, which is still very strong for a foldable phone. And when you combine these camera upgrades with the A20 Pro chip, the photography and video performance could be seriously impressive. Better AI processing, faster image capture, and smarter computational photography. So when you look at everything together, Apple isn't just making a faster chip, they're redesigning the internal structure of the processor itself. New 2-nanometer manufacturing, new WMCM chip packaging, and new SHPMIM power capacitors, all working together to push performance and efficiency to the next level. And if this really ends up inside the iPhone Fold, iPhone 18 Pro, and iPhone 18 Pro Max, 2026 might become one of the biggest iPhone upgrade years we've seen in a long time.